Chapter 44. The Night Mission. It was the end of September, the week of the 25th of that same month. Already in the sky and the atmosphere it was not even noticeable what season the town was in. The climates were very changeable. But since January the sun had not risen, always maintaining that cloudiness. The blue slopes of Death Mountain had not been seen again. The boys had almost a full month without attending school after the decision they made, due to what happened in the semifinal of the Fudblaze Cup tournament. Gavin, Black, Lewis, Albert, and Adrian were in their bedroom arranging and cleaning a shelf where they had some games, cards, figures and stuffed animals that they had bought at the Central Market toy store. In the meeting room they had a television similar to the one in the common room to pay attention to the news, when suddenly, around noon, near City Hall, Sylvanesia appeared on its balcony to give a message, and below there was a sea of people happy for the appearance of the Queen. Dear inhabitants, these henchmen have taken possession of the school. That dome of evil energy is depriving those present of entering and leaving the school. At this moment we will be in charge of fighting against these fugitives. Since they have escaped from their house arrest, we have declared war on them. When we have their heads through our hunting units we will show them to you. Trust my inhabitants. Sylvana! 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 The people shouted. After the applause, Sylvanesia announced with her hands towards the sky, the creation of the 12 surveillance towers around the town to find the rebels. Where these were guarded by the sentinels, drones, zeppelins and weapons, suddenly Angie screamed. Those are the evil transmission towers that the OVLAT guys and the sages showed us. That's where the dark deities are. If we defeat the dark deities and get the medallions, we can get the summons of Baphomet and Omega. Just as the writing in Mo said in the great cathedral, said Black. Luckily we have a summoner of ours. Gavin said as he winked at Katie. What will we do with Omega? We don't have a million rods. Said Lewis. I told them to leave that to me. To Bastian, Tony, Mott and Oscar. Said Alessio, and both Bastian and Tony shook their heads in affirmation. What's the plan, Angie? Emily asked. First we will defeat the dark deities, we destroy the towers, and when we finish, Alessio and his group will go to the gambling area to try to get the money. And when they have it, we will go to the great cathedral with Katie, said Angie. And when will we go to destroy the dark deities? Asked Naomi. The perfect day, it must be, this Sunday night. We must start around 5 in the afternoon. Since we have to go through the entire map of Pizcet, it will take us hours, said Angie. Now is the time to use the Zeppelin. Shouted Lewis. I think so, they are very long distances, we must use it, said Roger. I think that we must shield it in some way. Remember that witch has high-tech weaponry. We must be at the same level, added Marycross. It's true, if we go with the Zeppelin as it is, those missiles will shoot us down in one fell. Swoop, said Chaka. Joel, Sebastian, do you have a plan? Asked Angelica. We're already working on it. The Saturday we will have the ultra-improved Zeppelin ready, said Joel. I was in charge of placing a mapping system with the objectives, which would be the towers, as well as sensors to detect if enemies are approaching, and a radio to communicate through the nav. We are improving the surface so that some heroes can go up to the roof in case other Zeppelin or drones attack us, added Sebastian. Where are those towers? Asked Adrian. The locations are as follows. Dark Serena is in the Great Cathedral. Dark Raziel is in the Temple of the Desert Clouds Chapel. Dark Nikolash in the Home Oak Forest. Dark Boran is in the Parish Catacombs. Dark Ganesha is in Lake Murray. Dark Selassie is in the Jungle of the Great Bay. The Dark Three Fairy Sisters are in Alice's cabin. Dark Thor is in Death Mountain. Dark Rajma is in the Temple of the Painted Dream World of Euphrates. Dark Baphomet is in the Volcano of Fire very close to Tower Plains, and lastly, Dark Katina is in the Pizcet graveyard, explained Roger. How did you know? Asked Alvord. In the Book of Celestial Deities of the First Year, there is the location of the deities. That means that when Sylvanetia found them, she placed the towers in those same places, said Roger. Did you forget Dark Omega? No? Adrian asked. Omega does not have a dark version. Since he is the final deity of the god Eshin, said Marycross. Good job, Rogi. Angie said affectionately. Who will go on the mission? Alex asked. We'll need everyone's help. We'll all be on the Zeppelin that night. We need people on maps. We need people monitoring. We need people on the guns to shoot at the enemy machines. We need supplies. We need you all, Angie said. Are you sure you'll leave the ranch alone? Remember what happened last time, said Gavin. The Scarlet Eagles disappeared. There is no risk anymore, said Bastian. We won't all go. Liza broke into the conversation. Why? Asked Angie, Samantha, Daria, Kay, Danielle, Leanne, Sophia, Valerie, Teffa, Sylvia, Marilu, Dean, Franklin, Beatrice, May Lynn, Estella. Livia and Gabby, of course, requested not to attend the mission to stay here with Gabby and Tamara, to take care of them and also take care of the ranch. Liza commented. Well, in that case. That's fine. Does the rest agree? Angie asked, and everyone loudly shouted a yes in unison. On Sunday, September 28, 2012, at 3 in the afternoon, the boys were preparing in Hangar 18 of the Asgard Ranch. There they were preparing the Zeppelin and everything they had to take for the mission. Members of the support group were boarding the Zeppelin stock up on food and supplies, such as chocolate donuts, sweets from Hanmarks, chips, beer and more drinks. In addition to that, Alberth is uploading some pots with Adrian and Alvord. Why those vessels? What are they? Natasha asked. They are not vessels, they are explosives. A potter made them in the central market. We bought them and filled them with gunpowder. We will destroy the towers from above when the Guardian is eliminated at the bottom. Alberth responded. Everyone was preparing. They were getting their weapons ready after forging them to the highest level. Everyone was preparing. It was the omen of the final battle that was approaching. Around 5 in the afternoon, everyone formed around the Zeppelin, and among them all, they shook hands, words of support, clapped, and applauded the Zeppelin, since it was the weapon that would help them in the fight against the witch. Black, do you remember that when we built the ranch, we gave it a name? Gavin asked, looking at Black. Yes. I remember, Black said affirmatively. I think we should name our ship. Gavin said, that's a good idea. Black commented, suggest names, everyone. Gavin shouted to everyone. Cloverwind, said Alex. Hero weapon, said Alberth. No, it doesn't sound good, said Black thoughtfully. Asgard Shipple, said Tony. The Green Monster, said Samantha. The King of the Air, said Liza. No, something more basic. But that sounds good, that is catchy, that you like, said Black. I was thinking of 2 names, said Angie. Which ones? Alessio asked. I was thinking about the word Friday, since most plans are on Fridays, but it occurred to me combining the name of our house with something related to special forces. Angie said, huh? Say it. Gavin said, waiting for Angie's response. Jade Force 1, Angie said. Great. I like it. Sounds really good. Great name, said everyone around, since they liked the name. Jade Force 1 will be, said Black. So after this, Joel and Sebastian went up with Sophia and Samantha and began to paint the ship an emerald green, and in black letters, they placed the name Jade Force 1 on the sides, along with a clover that represented their house, and on the other side, a number 12 that symbolized the 12 places, the 12 objectives that they had to visit on this mission, followed by Katie, who welded the Jade Force 1 plate and placed the license plate to honor Richie, with the words RICH 12. Around 5 in the afternoon, everyone got on the Zeppelin and was ready to start the mission. However, when they were about to take off, Jade Force 1 did not start. What's happening? Gavin asked. Problems taking off? Black asked. Damn, we have no fuel. Joel said. It just can't be, said Sebastian. So they all went down again to see what they could do. But are there fuels in the ranch's warehouses? No, Angie said. I'm afraid not, said Albert. When Angie heard that, she walked to some steps that connected to the exit of the hangar, sat there and started crying. Gavin noticed that he was sad, so he approached her. What's wrong? Gavin asked, sitting next to Angie. It's my fault. I forgot the fuel detail. Now we won't be able to take off and the witch will defeat us. We won't be able to walk across the entire map, it would take a while. Days. My plan has been a failure, said Angie. Never that. You are the person who has come up with the best plans. Since we met you, you have been one of the best managers of this group. If it were not for your plans, your leadership, we would not be where we are today. Without your ideas and strategies, this group wouldn't be what it is today. Gavin said. Do you really think so? Angie asked, wiping away her tears. It is, since we formed this group and new friends have joined us. Everyone has contributed something extremely important. If it were not for everyone, this story that we are building would not have the path to the happy ending that we seek. This would not be possible if a marshal, a captain, an orchestra teacher, like you have been. All the ideas and contributions from the rest of the boys have been linked and combined to make us stronger, thanks to you, said Gavin. But you are also a leader, and Black is the same. Alex, the others. Look how you have organized the Pizcet team as captain, said Angie. Yes. But I have been able to do those kinds of things thanks to the fact that I have learned that from you, as a role model. If I had not met you, I think I would never have improved my social skills to be a leader. You are an excellent teacher. You are able to organize whatever is asked of you, said Gavin. I appreciate you saying that, said Angie smiling. Get up, come on, we have a town to save, and I promise you that, if we are victorious, we will bake jam cookies and vanilla cream, said Gavin. And he extended his right hand to Angie and she took it tightly, uniting the ties of friendship. The Archer girl stood up, and when they walked towards where everyone was, Maleth and Kim asked Angie what was happening to her, and she answered, sometimes tears of relief free up space in our minds for new and fresh ideas. Why? She asked. Maleth. What do you have in mind? Kim asked. You'll see, Angie said, winking her eye, and she told everyone to put their knowledge of alchemy to work, and thus invent their own fuel. Since it would be difficult to send a group of heroes to the gas station on Mackenzie Alley. That's how everyone started thinking of something to create fuel. Eric, Albert, Arthur, Nick, Hector and Aaron brought to Hangar 18, a huge cauldron, where Alvord, Adrian, Roger and Priscilla, next to it, were deciding with Alex, Mayra, Danny, Michelle, Gustav and Jones what components to use. We could use cypress leaves, they give off an oil that is flammable, Roger suggested. Okay. But any liquid that burns? Said Alvord. Alcohol, said Alex. It has right. Adrian shouted. Where are we going to get so much alcohol? Priscilla asked. The barrel that Gavin and Katie brought from the West District. Remember what Gilbert said. The barrel will supply what we want most, said Roger, and Albert added, we could add sulfur to the composition. That's how the boys brought the barrel from the common room, and touching it, they wished that it would turn into pure alcohol, and it was filled in the enormous cauldron. Then Roger supplied the cypress leaves that were from the gardens of the children's home. Black. Finally, Albert added the sulfur stones. The cauldron began to smoke and began to turn a reddish color. Alex brought a hose and together with Maleth, They opened the fuel tank door of the Jade Force 1 and began to fill it with 10 liters to perform a test. Following this, Sebastian and Joel went up to the controls to do the test. And when entering the keys and pressing the starter accelerators, the Jade Force 1 began to start and its propellers began to spin. The entire ranch began to shout in an uproar. They had managed to create fuel, so they finished filling the tank and filled reserves in other containers in case it ran out during the flight. Everyone boarded immediately. The Zeppelin left Hangar 18 around it was 7 at night, and the girls who would be staying there went up to the terrace to applaud and wish them the best of luck in the world. Tamara, in the arms of Gabby, who was just about to turn 1 year old, said her first words to the saw that green ship rise into the air and said, "May the luck be with you." Where Gabby? Samantha and those who were around said, "Did you hear what I think he said?" Samantha asked. Yes, she said it. Said Gabby, "He said luck be with you." How beautiful. Leanne said. Once in the air, everyone was deciding where to start. Angie mentioned the routes they would take. First, we must go through Dark Thor to Death Mountain. There nearby we will go with Dark Belphemet in the fire volcano very close to Tower Plains. Then we will go through Dark Raziel to the chapel of the Temple of the Desert Clouds. Then we will go through Dark Nikolash in the Home Oak Forest, then Dark Ganesha in Lake Murray. Then we will go through the Dark Three Fairy Sisters in Alice's cabin. There we will pass to the Temple of the Painted World of Dreams of Euphrates to go through Dark Rajma. Then we will go to the Great Bay, in the area of the jungle where Dark Selassie is. And we will leave those in the center of town lastly. There we will arrive through Dark Borin in the parish catacombs, then to the Pizcet graveyardy for Dark Katina, and lastly Dark Serena in the Great Cathedral. That will be the route, Angie said, and both Sebastian and Joel set off. Black informed of the teams that would be available for that night. In case they were attacked, they had to go up to the roof of the ship. In addition to being the teams that would be taking turns in the towers to defeat the dark deities, the first group would be Gavin, Black, Priscilla and Angie. The second group would be Adrian, Louis, Roger and Alvord. The third group would be Bastian, Tony, Alessio and Chaka. The fourth group, Emily, Angelica and Mariah, and the last group would be Mary Cross, Katie and Naomi. For his part, Gavin took the map with the routes that Angie had made and placed himself in a chair in front of Joel and Sebastian at the main controls to guide them. In another section were Hector, Arthur, Eric, Alberth, Katie, with the other control center to manage the Jade Force 1. In addition to the rest of the members of the support group who were sitting in different spaces on the walls of the ship, ready in case they had to shoot or deploy a bomb. Hey Gavin, I want to make you to question. Sebastian said. Sure, tell me, Gavin responded. What are those transmission towers supposed to do? What is the objective of destroying them? Asked Sebastian. It is said that the towers emanate an evil signal, which penetrates the minds of people who are not yet completely possessed by the witch. If this spreads, she will be able to take complete control of their minds. Of the totally Eshenite people, Gavin argued. I see. And what are those evil transmission towers like? Sebastian asked. They are white and red iron columns, with bars, and at their highest part, they have a red lantern. We must destroy that so that that signal stops emanating. If we destroy all of them, since they are connected, they would stop launching that signal. The witch used the dark deities as guardians of the towers. Fortunately, she did not take Belphemet and Omega due to lack of resources. So, we will beat her with those two invocations if we manage to eliminate these dark deities, Gavin concluded. The Jade Force 1 began to fly north towards Death Mountain. And in the distance they saw a huge tower with a red light. The ship began to approach. In this area there were some drones and zeppelins surrounding it, so Gavin, Black, Priscilla and Angie were ready to fight against the dark deity of Thor. since they had a high vitality, the strategy was to use the invocation of Katina, so that she could use the special attack of the razor blade of euthanasia and with a critical hit, finish her off so as not to waste any more time. That was the strategy to use them with all the dark deities. Range mode. Over and out, Joel said as the sound of the radio transmitter ended. We are entering Death Mountain right now. Over and out, said Sebastian. Let's kick some mechanized butts. Over and out, Joel said. Deploy the explosives. Over and out, said Sebastian, while Jones, Leonard, Aaron, Nick in their seats deployed the explosives above the tower to destroy the zeppelins and drones that surrounded it. When they were eliminated, the Jade Force 1 descended to the ground. Lewis told him gave Black the invocation of Katina. So Gavin, Angie, Black and Priscilla got off the ship and walked towards the tower along a gravel path, quite cold, and around this path there were small conifers and moorland bushes. When they arrived, the tower was illuminated by white lights, and from that part, the illuminated center of Pizcet could be seen in the distance. When a kind of specter in human form appeared and said to them, "Traitors, how can you think of returning to this place, traitors? Save your lives by going back to that stupid ship." And there a wave of water appeared out of nowhere, where in the distance a ship was shown that formed a human silhouette with a Viking helmet. It was the dark deity of Thor, where Priscilla used Rokarga and launched a sandstorm. Angie used a rock arrow with his crossbow. Black fired a mud bullet with his bazooka and Gavin used his boomerang to create another sandstorm, where all these attacks were very critical, followed by this. Thor used Electraga and dealt them almost 3,500% damage to the group. Let's not take risks, they are very powerful, let's better use Katina, said Priscilla, so Black used Katina's invocation and ordered him to use her special attack, taking advantage of the fact that he had it charged, and he used his razor blade of euthanasia and finished off Thor's dark deity with a single blow. When the deity dissipated, Gavin told Joel to take down the lantern on top of the tower. Take this. Over and out, Joel shouted, and a beam from Bernaga shot the Jade Force 1, destroying the red light lantern, and when it was destroyed, enemy down. 1 goes. There are 11 left, Joel said, as the first medallion fell from the sky. Priscilla took it and everyone returned to Jade Force 1 to continue the trip. Once on the ship, Katie approached Gavin to congratulate him and told him that if Katina's summoning wore out, she could bring it back with her light magic. Gavin mentioned this to the others, and returned to his seat next to Joel and Sebastian. Arc 12. Now head towards the fire volcano along the Tower Plains path, said Sebastian. Location confirmed. Heading to the place, we will arrive in 5 minutes, answered a digitized voice. Who said that? Asked Gavin. It's Arc 12, analyst and radar from Combat Number 12. It's a technological assistant. We stole some things the other day from the Great Campus, Joel explained. The Jade Force 1 took flight and headed about 2 kilometers to the right to reach the fire volcano, where they had noticed that the tower that had the red fire dragon embedded in it was the tower they had to destroy. Did you guys do that? Fergie asked when he saw the huge red snake embedded in the metal of the tower. Yes, said Gavin, even if the tower was destroyed, they had to defeat the dark deity of Belphemet, since it was an enemy they did not know. Upon descending very close to the crater, Adrian, Luis, Roger, Alvord walked along the path of Tower Plains until they reached the tower that had the corpse of the red fire dragon. There, in the same way, the silhouette of a human spectrum appeared and said the same words to them as the first. And a huge flame of flame appeared out of nowhere. Fire, the center of the earth began to tremble and opened like a crater, and from that hole, a black bipedal goat jumped, with fur that looked like incandescent ash with 2 silver horns and above them a flame of fire. Very big, it was Belphemet but in its version of darkness. The duel began. Belphemet launched Bernaga, inflicting almost approximately 3,800% damage against the group. While the boys waited, Lewis summoned Katina. She began to charge her special attack. While Belphemet hit Katina, she recovered using Floriga on herself, and when she was ready, Lewis ordered her to use the razor blade of euthanasia, finishing Belphemet by breaking him in half. When it dissipated, the second medallion came out of the ground. Alvord took it and they boarded the Zeppelin again to head towards the desert district, towards the tower that was very close to the Temple of the Desert Clouds. As they flew over Pizcet, Arthur reported, "Enemy ship approaching. Over and out. Enemy group behind us. Over and out," Katie said. The drones and the other Zeppelins had learned that they were flying over and began to hunt them down, so Joel and Sebastian suggest that a group go out to the top to destroy the approaching drones. Suddenly, one of them, the enemy Zeppelins, began to fire, and strong turbulence was felt inside the ship after the impact of the missiles. Some of the boys and girls began to scream, but the others asked for calm. "Joel here. I'm fine. Over and out," Joel said while he reported that the ship was being armored and no damage was happening to it. "Get out of my way. Over and out," Sebastian shouted as he fired a Bernaga beam with the Jade Force 1 that hit the enemy Zeppelins, managing to knock them down. But the drones were approaching, which made Bastian, Tony, Alessio and Chaka go out towards the top of the Zeppelin. While in the air, there were 4 drones above them ready to shoot, so Bastian threw his axe and shot down the first one. Tony ran towards the one that had descended to the surface of the Jade Force 1 and destroyed it with his Goldchakis, throwing them towards it. Alessio, with his sphere, launched towards the next one that was approaching to destroy it, and finally, Chaka with a huge flame of fire destroyed the last one. The 4 returned inside the Jade Force 1, continuing their way to the tower that was in the desert. It was around 11 at night. They arrived towards the desert. The Zeppelin descended and there, Emily, Angelica and Mariah got off. Where Lewis had given Katina's summon to Emily to use. After getting off the Zeppelin, they continued along the desert path until they reached the tower. There, again, the voice of the ghost that warned of the imminent danger. A figure of a child appeared from the sky. "Look. It's an eagle," said Emily. "No, it's a falcon," said Angelica. "It's Raziel," said Mariah, when indeed the dark deity of Raziel appeared, where with its enormous black wings he covered his seraph face, and only showed her sword. Emily, without wasting much time, summoned Katina immediately before things got more difficult, where she used her special attack and cut the sword Dark Raziel in 2, defeating him completely, thus ending it. Angelica warned the Jade Force 1 and it shot a beam from the heavens towards the tower to destroy the red light lantern, and medallion number 3 fell from the sky. The 3 girls returned to where the Zeppelin was to get on again. Upon boarding the Jade Force 1 again, they took the road to the forests of Pizcet, where the tower that had the dark deity of Nikolash was in the oak forest. Very close to there, where there were no trees, Katie, Marycross, and Naomi got off the Zeppelin. They began to advance along the forest path until they reached the tower. When they got there, a huge blizzard and a fog appeared in front of them, and suddenly soon, some reindeer came down from the sky towards the forest, running through the blizzard, and out of the mist Nikolash appeared. But his red suit was a darker, browner tone. The duel began, where Katie gave Naomi the invocation of Katina. "Tamala, I am already a summoner. It is time for you to live this experience," said Katie towards Naomi, and she invoked Katina. She had exhausted her attack energy special, so Katie, on the other hand, began to attack Nikolash with Coco and Cleo, while Katina charged her special attack. Coco and Cleo would never be defeated by Nicolash's ice attacks, since they were immune. After a few minutes, Katina charged her special attack, and Naomi ordered her to use it. She defeated Dark Nicolash without any problem. After the victory, the girls informed Joel and Sebastian to launch the missiles to destroy the tower. The Jade Force 1 fired and destroyed the tower. When the fog and blizzard dissipated, the medallion fell. The girls returned to the Zeppelin and it again headed towards Lake Murray, very close by, where the next tower was located, which was guarded by Ganesha. After flying for a few kilometers, they arrived at the large lake. There Tony, Alessio, Bastian and Roger got off on the shores of the lake. The shaking of the water began to change, causing certain waves to begin to form. Suddenly, from the center a lotto flower began to emerge from the lake and a giant elephant emerged. It was Dark Ganesha. This time Alessio summoned Katina to launch her special attack, killing Ganesha immediately, since Angie knew her well and warned them, not giving him a single second of advantage. The lotto flower in the center of the lake was cut by the razor blade of euthanasia and Ganesha's spirit fell towards the lake dissipating. Tony ordered Joel to shoot towards the tower and when the shots of Electraga hit the tower, the next medallion went up from the lake to the surface, on top of a nymphea leaf. They took it and the boys returned to the Zeppelin to get on it and continue to the next place where they had to go to the cabin of Alicia, which they visited in the first years of the course. On the other side of the Pizcet River, there would be the next tower. After a while of flying over, they found the tower on one side of the river. Here, the Jade Force 1 dropped off Adrian, Louis, Roger and Alvord where they met. They headed along the path along the side of the riverbank, until they reached the tower, where suddenly a wave of butterflies, a wave of dragonflies, and a group of ants appeared in the sky, where they all began to form three silhouettes. The moths formed the first girl with a butterfly body. The dragonflies formed the second girl and the ants the third girl. The dark deities of the three sisters stood in front of them. The duel began. Louis immediately summoned Katina to use her special attack, where she began to be attacked by the three sisters. But Katina withstood the attacks by curing herself of her vitality by launching Floriga. After a while, she used her special attack and cut off Faye's wings, but May and Zay were still alive. The two remaining sisters attacked Katina, but she withstood the attacks, healing again, using her special attack again with her sickle and launched it against May, killing her. And only Zay remained. Where it was a one-on-one duel, Zay continued attacking Katina and she was healed by Floriga, when Katina was about to be weakened with little energy. It gave her time to use her last razor blade of euthanasia and eliminate Zay, thus ending the Dark Three Fairy Sisters, then Dark Three Fairy Sisters. Then the formation of insects formed the medallion and Louis picked it up. After the duel, the boys returned to where the Zeppelin was to continue the trip. Inside the ship, Katie cured Katina's energy and magical power to continue with the following battles. Now the Jade Force 1 was heading towards the temple of the painted dream world of Euphrates where Dark Rajma was located. And when they were very close to the place, again other drones and another enemy Zeppelin ship followed them. So Gavin, Priscilla, Angie and Black went out to the top to destroy the drones. The Jade Force 1 got into range position and launched Electraga at the Zeppelin that was chasing them. At the top, Angie, Priscilla, Gavin and Black waited for the three drones that were coming towards them starting a small duel. Angie launched her arrow without any magic with her crossbow and destroyed the first drone. Then one of them would attack the boys with some shots, but it was not as effective. Gavin threw his Avitus boomerang, also without combining magic, and destroyed the second's propellers. To this was added an attack that Priscilla de Bernaga had launched. and finally Black with his bazooka launched a bullet without magic that pierced the mechanized body of the last one. After the duel, the Zeppelin would descend into an alley a few meters from the temple. Guys, I have to leave you here. According to the radar, more drones and ships are coming towards us. When you defeat the dark deity, we will meet you on the other side of the street. I will wait for you there after destroying the tower to pick you up. Joel said. Understood. Black, Priscilla, Angie and Gavin told him. The group began to walk down the alley when 3 sentinels suddenly appeared. Stop there. Your weapons and hands where I can see them. Stay still. They will come with us. The sentinels shouted, so the 4 began to fight against them. The sentinels only fired with their shotguns. You call that a shot? Take this, said Black as he shot a Bernaga bullet with his bazooka to finish him off. Priscilla also used Bernaga with her spellbook against the sentinel. Gavin launched his Avitus to create a whirlwind of water and drown the second. Angie launched an arrow of yellow Electraga with his crossbow against the last one to finish him off. And so the 4 continued on their way to the temple. Once inside, the portraits that were inside began to project a white glow on one of the walls, forming a figure of a black statue in a lying position, and began the duel against the dark Rajma. Black again invoked Katina, already recovered from the last duel against the dark deities of the 3 fairy sisters, and before Rajma began to fire his rays of Psycharga, Katina used her special attack to cut the statue in 2, turning it into dust and rubble, and within these was the next medallion that Black took. After the duel, the 4 left the temple towards the other street that Joel told them had indicated, and sure enough, there was the Zeppelin in the air, where on the roof of the Zeppelin Tony, Alessio, Bastian, Chaka were fighting against another group of drones. Gavin informed Joel to destroy the next tower, since the rest had left the temple, and continuing along that street while the Jade Force 1 destroyed the tower. Sentinels appeared again, where the 4 easily defeated them again, until they continued running and hiding among some bushes on a straight street until they reached the other side where it was the Jade Force 1. Once on the Zeppelin, they took off and headed to the Great Bay, where it would take them about 30 minutes to get to that place to descend into the Colorado jungle, where the next tower and its guardian, Dark Selassie, were. The Jade Force 1 got off near the beach, and Emily, Angelica and Mariah got off there. They went into the depths of the jungle undergrowth to reach the next tower. When they reached that place, a loud noise was heard. Enormous roar, and among the foliage a dark lion with bat wings appeared and fell from the sky. The duel against Dark Selassie began. It's your turn. You finish it, Emily said to Angelica after giving Katina so that she could summon her. Okay, let's do it, said Angelica, and she invoked Katina to have the duel against Selassie, where the dark deity began to attack with bites from Bernaga, and they were very strong blows for Katina, but she endured until she could launch her special attack and finished Selassie with a single blow. Then, Emily and Angelica noticed that in a tree, she had embedded an incandescent silhouette. It was Selassie's medallion. Emily and Angelica took it and returned to Mariah where the Zeppelin was. It took flight to knock down the tower and destroy its red lantern. Only 3 towers, 3 medallions and 3 dark deities were missing. The next path was to head towards the parish, where they would enter the Pizcet catacombs to search for the dark deity Boran. Upon reaching the parish, Marycross, Katie and Naomi got off the Jade Force 1 and entered towards the parish. There they descended through the stairs until reaching one of the levels of the catacombs. Inside the catacombs, Katie invoked Coco and Cleo so that their glowing white fur would illuminate the way. Where will the dark deity be? Asked Naomi. The catacombs are a huge place. It is connected throughout the Pizcet map with its underground level and depths. It would take us hours. It is just after 2 in the morning, said Marycross. Don't worry girls, like Summoner, Coco and Cleo will sniff out where it could be, said Katie. While this was happening underground in the catacombs, in the air, the Jade Force 1 destroyed the lantern of the tower that was above the parish, Marycross. Katie and Naomi followed Coco and Cleo through the maze. Coco and Cleo will return to return to this exit door. We won't get lost, Katie explained. After walking through the narrow alleys with sarcophagi and crypts of the catacombs, they arrived at a place where there was a huge sarcophagus, and from it came a black cloak. Forming a kind of silhouette, the chains that held the sarcophagus took over the black cloak. The figure formed Boren. That's it, said Marycross, let's beat him. Naomi said. And she summoned Katina. Boren immediately began to attack Katina with his Chains of Pain special attack, but fortunately Katina withstood the attack. And then used the razor blade of euthanasia and cut Boron's chains in 2 parts, as well as his figure with his cloak. After dissipating, the sarcophagus showed the medallion inside it. Naomi took the medallion and told the girls to leave the place quickly. So Coco and Cleo guided the girls to the exit again to get on the Zeppelin to go to the Pizcet graveyard. It was around 4 in the morning, upon arriving in front of the gates of the Pizcet graveyard. Many of the drones and Zeppelins had already been destroyed in the air by the heroes, and they were no longer following Adrian, Louis, Roger and Alvord. They got out of it and opened the gates. Louis and Roger lowered the levers and Adrian and Alvord opened the gates with force, where an echoing sound of rust from the hinge reverberated in the interiors of the crypts and mausoleums. Upon entering the graveyard, began to advance through this, until reaching the tower that was in the center of the graveyard. There was the Chapel of Wake. The Zeppelin had taken flight to destroy the drones and Zeppelins that were in the heights guarding it. I am worried about this dark deity, said Alvord. Why? Adrian asked. She can also use the razor blade of euthanasia. If she attacks us first with her special attack, we are dead, Alvord explained. You're right. But I don't think she has her special attack charged at the start. Louis said. I agree with Louis, these dark deities have not had duels. It is impossible for their final attack to be charged without a duel, Roger explained, but they were unaware that the girls received the impact of Boren in the catacombs at the same time. Start the duel. You are correct, I had not thought about that, however, we must be careful, Alvord concluded. So the 4 continued towards the viewing chapel where a black cloak began to fall from the sky. Bones began to appear among the graves and tombstones around them. The flowers that were decorating some tombstones began to join this black cloak and the bones. This was where the dark deity Katina appeared. The duel began. Dark Katina began attacking with Bersaka, causing that Katina would begin to hit herself. This put the plan in serious danger, since with a state of berserk, anger and madness caused that when she hit herself, she lost vitality and on rare occasions she listened to an order. Louis ordered her Katina used Floriga on herself, but she didn't obey, so Dark Katina continued attacking her. Damn it! Alvord shouted. We are lost, said Adrian. Louis, do something. Roger shouted. Throw a potion at him, said Adrian. It's impossible. Summons cannot be cured with potions. Only they themselves can be cured, explained Luis, while all the boys began to lose their temper. Finally, Katina managed to use Floriga and cured their vitality. If Katina does not charge her special attack quickly, her counterpart will do it first and it will be the end of us, said Alvord. A few minutes of blows passed between both deities. It seemed that Katina's berserk state had been removed and she finally managed to charge her attack special before her counterpart did. Louis ordered her to use it. And Katina took out her sickle from her black robe and cut her counterpart in half, ending the duel. After getting a little complicated, inside the viewing chapel, She appeared a small chest where the medallion was, so the boys took it and returned to the entrance to return to the Zeppelin. Finally, the group of Angie, Priscilla, Black and Gavin headed to the great cathedral. In the right tower was behind of a cross, the red lantern. This had the peculiarity that it was not guarded by drones and Zeppelins. So the Jade Force 1 descended on the roof of the great cathedral. From there they looked at one of the towers, and it had a staircase, so the four of them went down to the roof. There the Zeppelin would wait for them. First we must go up to the tower and eliminate the red lantern, said Angie. And where will Dark Serene be? Black asked. I imagine it's inside the church, Priscilla said. Look up there, there's a door near the stairs, that's where we'll go in, Gavin said. So the four of them started walking along the roof of the church. Great cathedral, where gargoyles began to appear that they had to face again. The four defeated them without much effort. When they reached the stairs, they were a little high. Black observed how the stairs had 3 switches, so teamwork was going on. To be fundamental at this moment, look. There are 2 switches on those sides of the north tower of the cathedral. I will shoot a bullet to activate it. Angie, you shoot an arrow to activate the second switch when you hit the target. And Gavin, you will press the lever of the third switch, so the ladder will go down, and Priscilla will watch our backs from the gargoyles, Black explained. So the group began with the plan. Black shot first and activated the first switch. Angie with her arrow activated the second switch and Gavin lowered the lever that was on the ceiling. And the iron ladder went down a rail on the wall of the tower of the great cathedral. The four began to climb. As they climbed the ladder, out of nowhere some people appeared drones, and when they were heading to attack them, Sebastian and Joel in the Zeppelin fired to kill them. When they reached the top, they found the red lantern. They began to attack the red lantern with their weapons until breaking it. Gavin threw his Avitas boomerang with Mitarga. Angie launched a Mitarga arrow. Priscilla launched a rain of Mitarga daggers. And finally Black used his special attack and launched 8 Mitarga bullets to destroy the red lantern. When this happened, the four entered through the door on one side of the tower. They reached the spiral stairs, which were the ones that led to the bell tower room, where they went down to reach where the presbytery of the great cathedral was. In that place, a black cloak appeared, which formed a girl with a dark face. It was Dark Serene. The duel began. Dark Serene, being the counterpart of the normal Serena, used Det, Flare, Ultima, Asterer and Osmosis to attack, so Black immediately summoned Katina. In a very simple way, using his special attack, he cut the black veil of Dark Serene and defeated her very easily, thus finishing her off. Above the presbytery, there was an altar. There was the last medallion. They had obtained the 12 medallions and destroyed the 12 dark deities. The four of them left the great cathedral, and the rest of the boys in the Zeppelin were waiting for them in the small square in front of the park. Inside the ship there was total joy among everyone. As it ascended into the air, dawn began to appear on the horizon. It was around 5:30 in the morning. The Jade Force 1 was heading towards Asgard Ranch. Once they arrived at the hangar, everyone went to sleep after a night and early morning full of adventure and adrenaline. The next morning, Alessio, Bastian, Tony, Mott and Oscar would visit the amusement park to bet money with Big Bomb on T's champion to win the bets and raise the million rods they needed for the offering of Omega, the final deity of Eshin. So the 5 of them took the Farol del Rancho and arrived at the amusement park around 12 noon. Shall we go to the roulette game first? Asked Bastian. We should split up. Each of us will play a different game, said Alessio. I can go play blackjack and see how much money I can raise there. And I also read about betting on a number from 100 rods to 50,000 rods. Every 3 hours there is a draw. We could go there to bet some rods and see how much we win at the end of the day. The prize is 650 times the investment, said Mott. In that case we will do this. Mott, you will go to blackjack. Oscar, you will go to the bets where you will bet on different numbers and we will see how much we can win in that 650 times the investment. Bastian, you will go to the slots in the amusement park casino and try to get 3 games of cherries or 3 games of the number 7. I will go to play poker at Big Bomb in T's Champion. Lastly, Tony, you will go to roulette at the casino with Bastian, but remember that the roulette numbers are not the same numbers that I have on this list. Use only the ones you see that are similar to the list, said Alessio. Everyone agreed. Remember to bet on these numbers: 12, 64, 32, 8, 4, 6, 31, 13, 94, 93, 23, 1, 7, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 22. 47 inches, said Alessio. Those numbers for what? Are they lucky? Tony asked. All those numbers are our numbers in the Fudblesse team. Now let's go. May luck be with us, said Alessio. Tony remembers looking carefully at the numbers on the roulette wheels. Some of the ones Alessio mentioned in the list are not on the roulette wheel. Mott mentioned to him. Yes, fool. I already know that, Tony responded angrily. Finally, everyone separated and each one went to his game. At the blackjack table, there were many people playing. Blackjack, shouted the guy who was benching at the blackjack table, where Mott approached. I want to play, said this one. Sure, friend. Sit down. Make your bet, said the man. Mott took out the money and bet. A few minutes passed, where he beat the banker, with 5 consecutive blackjacks. One of them, the banker had 18, and in the next play that the subject took, he surpassed 21 and Mott won the game. He had won more than 234,000 rods in blackjack, without losing a single game, winning all of them against the bank. Following this, Oscar headed towards the place where the bets were made every 3 hours. Good morning, young man. Do you want to make any bet on this day? Asked the betting ticket seller. Yes. I want to bet 100 rods on these numbers. They would be 8, 12 and 13 inches, Oscar responded. Okay, friend, every 3 hours look at that screen over there. The winning numbers will be there. Take your ticket. If you win, with that you can claim the prize, added the man. Oscar had bet 100 rods in the 3 draws of the day. After a while, Oscar had earned just over 195,000 rods. At the casino slots, Bastian came to the slot machine booth. First, he went to the window to buy chips, and then he came to the machine. He added 10 chips. In the first turn, when touching the lever, the slots began to rotate. When they stopped, the letter P, bar and a 7 appeared. In the second turn, a 7, a cherry and a bar appeared. Bastian began to despair due to the lack of luck. On the third turn, he pressed the button again and they came out 7, 7, 7, thus winning a considerable amount of money. Luck came and was on their side. Then they came out bar, bar, bar. Cherry, cherry, cherry. Then again it went 7, 7, 7 for several turns, thus winning a few 400,000 rods on his turn. Bastian had 400,000 won rods after winning 6 consecutive rounds in the 7, 7, 7 slots and the 3 cherries. While at Big Bomb's booth, Alessio came to a poker table, where there were some old men. What do you want, young man? Are you going to play? Asked one of the elders. Yes, Alessio answered. Well, here we pay 2,000 rods to enter the bet, answered another man. I'm in, said Alessio, and he sat at the table, where there were 8 other players. Alessio had a scale of cards. His opponents decided to raise the bet to 15,000 rods. Another player responded by raising his bet to 45,000 rods. So Alessio played a queen, Q, king, K, and an ace. So he pays another 30,000 rods and draws a king. K, queen, Q, and a 10 of hearts, and with his straight, was the strongest. Another opponent had a trio of queens, Q, and others had several aces. Another player had a pair of kings, K. The first player does not bet. Alessio decides to make another bet since he has the best hand, and bets 30,000 rods. Another player next to him does not bet. But the one on the right with a hat and a cane raises his bet to 70,000 rods. So Alessio did not raise his bet again and waited for the others to raise his bet, which was what he wanted. Then one player throws a 5 of clubs, another player bets 100,000 rods, and Alessio with his strong strategy takes a risk and calls. The other players call, the last card falls. But it is not relevant to Alessio or the table, so Alessio he had 160,000 rods and bet. The others did not follow, since they lost and could not withstand Alessio's strategy, and that is how he won the game. Alessio had 163,001 rods in his game with some old men in berets who were smoking cigarettes. Finally, at the roulette game, Tony came to the gaming booth. "Good morning, young man. Do you want to play roulette?" asked the girl who was playing the game. "Yes. I want to bet several numbers," Tony responded. "Okay, how much do you want to bet and what would the numbers be?" asked the girl. "I would like to bet on 9, 11, 7, 17, 23, 15, 13, 1, 10, 12, 8, 23 and 14 inches," Tony responded. "Wow, those are a lot of numbers, quite a gambler. How much do you want to bet?" asked the girl. "This amount," Tony responded as he handed the girl the money. "Okay, let's start," said the girl, while around them there were other older adults playing. Luckily for Tony, on the first turn he came up on 15. Followed by him betting again and coming up on 12, and finally, when he had a considerable amount of money, he won for the third time and walked away with the prize. Tony won just over 111,000 rods. After betting 4,000 rods, which had been multiplied by 28, by betting on the number 15. When everyone met again at the Ferrol to return to the ranch, they had raised nearly 1,103,000 rods. Returning said to the ranch at the end of the night to tell everyone in the group that they had the money for the offering. Upon arriving at the place, Angie told the 5 to divide the remaining 100,000 rods for their work. The money was given to Gavin to accompany Katie to bring the invocations from the great cathedral. From this moment they would prepare to go to the great cathedral to obtain the final deities of Omega and Baphomet.